Welcome to my economics class. This is Shashikala from Department of Economics. Today we are going to study and try to understand the chapter Production and Cost, which is chapter 3. In the last few sessions we studied about the behavior of consumer. Here in this chapter we study and try to understand the behavior of producer in detail. How the producer behaves, what are his strategies, and what is his main object. Here are the contents of the chapter. We discuss about the production function, the meaning and various other concepts, the short run and long run production function, total product, average product and marginal product, the law of variable proportion, shapes of TP, AP and MP curves, returns to scale, cost. There are two types of cost, short run cost and long run cost. Coming to the meaning of production. It is the process by which inputs are transformed into output. Production is carried out by producers or firms. Now let us try to understand this concept by few examples. Firstly, we'll go with the example of a tailor. In the production process, tailor uses various inputs like sewing machine, cloth, thread and his own labor to produce the output. Likewise, in the second example, we take the car manufacturer. Here in the production process, he uses various inputs like land for a factory, machinery, labor and various other inputs. In the same way, taking agriculture as an example, the farmer uses various inputs in the production process like water, fertilizers, seeds, labor, machineries, etc. So whatever the inputs that we are using in the production process, we call it as factors of production. So all these inputs are broadly classified into four important types. We call it as land, labor, capital, organization. Now coming to land. Land refers to all the natural resources available on this earth which are not created by man. For any production, let's take agriculture, manufacturing sector or service sector. So whatever the production level, the first important factor we require is land. So it includes water, surface soil, forest, minerals, mountains and so on. And the second important factor of production, labor. Any mental or physical work done by a person with the view of earning an income is called a labor. The third factor, capital. All those man-made goods used in the production process is called capital. It's nothing but investment. And the last one, organization. Organizer or entrepreneur is one who organizes the other three factors of production. These four factors of production are also called it as inputs that we use in the production. Land alone cannot do anything. Labor cannot act without the organizer, and capital cannot do anything by itself. So all these four factors are interdependent and the organizer play a very important role in bringing all these factors together. Now let's move on to the next. Now let us look at the basic terms that we use in this chapter. In order to acquire inputs, a firm has to pay for them. This is called cost of production. Or we can also say the expenses incurred in the production process. We use four factors: land, labor, capital and organization, and in reward for these factors we pay rent, wages, interest and profits. So these are called the cost of production. Once the output produced, the firm sells it in the market and earns the revenue. So whatever the money that the producer receives after selling the goods, that money or that amount we call it as revenue. Let's say after selling the goods, the producer received 1 lakh rupee. That we call it as revenue. And the total cost that he incurred in the production is 60,000. And the difference between the cost and revenue we call it as profit. So 1 lakh minus of 60,000, the remaining 40,000 we call it as profit. And also in this chapter we discuss the relationship between input and output. So the entire chapter is focused on the relationship between the input and the output. And also we look at the cost structure of the firm. So we are clear with the inputs and output. So the producer produces the output by using various inputs. So now we are going to study the relationship between these inputs and output in detail, that we call it as production function. The technological relationship between inputs and output of a firm is said to be production function. In simple words, it explains the relationship between factors of production and quantity of output, which is technical in nature. Here the factors of production are nothing but the four factors like land, labor, capital and organization. Production function can be expressed as Q is equal to F of R L O K. So Q denotes the output the producer produces. F denotes the function. So function explains the relationship between two variables. Here we are having two variables. One variable is Q, we call it as output. The other variables, what we are seeing, R, L, O, K, are the inputs. So here the function F explains the relationship between the output and the inputs. R denotes the land we use in production, labor as L for labor, K for capital and O for organization. So in a simple words we can say that Q is F of R, L, O, K. So in economics we write K for capital. As we discussed in the previous slide, the relationship between input and output we call it as production function. So in this table we can show the relationship between the input and output, but in this table we have taken only two inputs, capital and labor. So this is a technical relationship. Here we are showing that capital and labor are the inputs and the output on the other side. So now let's take the combination A. So these are the random numbers that we have taken to explain the concept. So when the producer is using 0 unit of capital and 0 unit of labor, he cannot produce anything. So that is why the output will also remains 0. And let us assume that in combination B, the producer is using one machinery, two laborers, and his production is 10 units. And in combination C, as he increases his capital and labor, his production is also increases. So here the relationship between input and output is shown with the help of this simple table. So from the table it is clear that 1 unit of capital and 2 units of labor can produce 10 units of output. 2 units of capital, 4 units of labor can produce 24 units. 3 units of capital and 6 units of labor can produce 40 units of output. And 4 units of capital, 8 units of labor can produce 50 units of output. So as inputs increases, output also increases. Coming to the next concept, isoquants. In chapter 2, we have learnt about indifference curves. Here we introduce a similar concept known as isoquant. Isoquant is an alternative way of representing the production function. Now let us go in detail about isoquants. So based on few assumptions, we discuss the production function and the isoquants. The first assumption. For better understanding of the concept, we take into consideration only two factors, factor 1 and factor 2 as inputs in production, that is capital and labor. And here the production function can be expressed as Q is equal to F of x1 and x2. So x1 is capital, x2 is labor. In the equation, x1 quantity of factor 1 and x2 is quantity of factor 2 can produce Q amount of commodity. Isoquants. Iso means same, quants mean quantity. So same quantity. So even though we increase or decrease or we change the inputs combinations, finally the output remains the same. So this is the meaning of isoquants. So in this table you can observe that we have taken capital, labor, output. Three combinations A, B, C. We are using 4 units of capital, 1 unit of labor, and the producer is getting 10 units of output. In combination B, you can observe that the producer has reduced 2 units of capital, but he increased the units of labor, even though the production remains the same, 10 units. Third combination, combination C, the producer reduced the capital, machineries has been reduced, but he increased the employment of labor, even though the production remains the same. So here whatever the combinations that he uses, he may increase or he may decrease one of the input, but the production remains the same. The same can be shown with the help of a graph. So this is a two-dimensional graph. Here we have taken x-axis, y-axis. On y-axis we are representing capital, x-axis represents the labor. So 4 units of labor, 4 units of capital. Combination A. In combination A, 4 units of capital and 1 unit of labor. And in combination B, 2 units of capital and 2 units of labor. And combination C, 1 unit of capital and 4 units of labor. So we get 3 points here. All these 3 points produces the same amount of output. So that we call it as isoquant. So here you can observe in this diagram K1, K2, L1, L2. So capital 1, labor 1, capital 2, labor 2. So here he is getting 2 combinations A and B. So production is 10 units. And if you want to show, the producer want to show the higher level of production, he can draw the other line as we saw in the indifference curve. So here capital may remain same, but labor will increase. So that is why the production level increases to 20. And the higher the isoquants, the higher the production. So an isoquant is a set of all possible combinations of two inputs that yield the same level of output in a given time. Each isoquant represents a particular level of output. Here are few questions for today's assignment. Question 1. Give the meaning of production. Question 2. What are the factors of production? Mention the rewards for it. Question 3. What is production function? And the last question. Briefly explain isoquants. This is for 4 marks. So this is for today. Thank you for attending this class.